I thought that the YouTube was down for everyone. That's what Chandra said. But Surendra just called and said that he could actually hear um, the Shanti mantras and you could see me. So apparently that YouTube problem is not prevalent all over. Anyway, I sent you an email that we were canceling the class, and then when Chandra called back and said everything is working, so I thought I would restart it. So I have a little bit of confusion. Hopefully many of you are still waiting, and then we will, if you you can see the class later. So let's go on with it as we go. So the topic that we had chosen last week in terms of the Vedantic Insights was Praptasya Prapti, and I was going to take it up in some detail based on the mantras of the Kenopanishad. But I think that the way this class is shaping up, what I'd like to do is to be a little bit more freewheeling in terms of providing the insights that appeal to me. And the freewheeling doesn't mean that it's arbitrary. I'm still going to follow some structure, but I think that we will take more liberties in not sticking to a mantra by mantra text. And I was mentioning in before we got cut off, is that I see that as an Indian raga player or a singer who follows certain ragas. So it's not completely arbitrary, but there is some spontaneity on top of that. This is the way I would like to see this class emerging. So I think that this is good that we're starting late and so on. We will probably take up the Kena Upanishad a bit later on. But for now, what I thought I would do is to give you some insight into the thinking of Swami Vidyaranya in the very first shloka of Panchadashi. And this is extremely well unfolded by Swami Maheshanandji. Just amazing. I must have read this so many times, and every time I look at it, some new nuggets of wisdom really appeal to me. So I thought I'd spend some time just talking about that. So for that, let me actually read the shloka, and then I think what we will do is we will learn to recite it also a little bit later on. I think many of you have already done so in when we took up the first chapter of Panchadashi several years back. So it will be familiar to you, but let me just tell you what the shloka is, and I will actually send a text on this on the collateral file in the next week or so. So, and I think we will chant it perhaps whenever we do Panchadashi, we will chant this. So it goes, Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. One more time. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. This is how it goes. So, Namah Shri Shankarananda. My namaskara to that Shankarananda. No, just sensitive to any feedback from any of the students, whether it is working or not. Because the interesting thing was that I didn't know that the YouTube is down. It never gave me that signal. So I assumed everything is okay. This is part of the issue that we have to solve. To get used to, not solve. So my namaskara to Sri Shankarananda, and I will explain the dual meaning of this in a minute. Whose lotus feet are responsible for swallowing the tough crocodile of my confusion. This is the essence of it. So, Namah Shri Shankarananda. Let's see, Zarina is calling. Hi Zarina.
Namaste Vijayji. I can hear and see you fine.
So can a couple of other people. So we've already started the class.
Yes, I know, and I can hear and see you fine is what I'm saying.
Okay, good. Thank you for the feedback. All right. Thank you. So my namaskara to Sri Shankarananda, who has one job. Eka karmane. The Guru, Sri Shankarananda, that has one job. That's his one focus. He's not doing multiple things, just doing one thing. And what is that? Savilasa mahamoha graha grasaika karmane. His one job is to swallow the very tough-skinned crocodile in the form of a great confusion on my part. I'll explain that. I'm just giving you the word meaning. Let's just follow that. And how does he do that? He does it by the very soft lotus feet, by the virtue of the very softness of his lotus feet. Okay, so let me now complete the sentence and then we will start to dissect it. So he says, my namaskara to that Guru, so Sri Shankaranandji, who by the very virtue of the very soft lotus feet is able to swallow the very tough-skinned crocodile in the form of my extreme confusion about myself. A complete extreme confusion, my extreme confusion. By myself will come later on, but my extreme confusion. So once again, Namah Shri Shankarananda, Guru Padao Ambujanmane. So Ambujanmane is a lotus flower, lotus flower is born in water. So, so the name of the lotus flower is the one that is born in the water, Ambujanmane. And Guru Padao, so the 2 feet, so there are dual feet mentioned, and there is a significance of that, we will see. So the dual feet of which Guru that formed the lotus softness, to that Guru whose one job is to swallow the very tough crocodile, dangerous crocodile, which is, one other thing, Savilasa. Savilasa means one that has, not only does it, crocodile create a problem, but it creates a variety of problems. So Vilasa means an expansion, a furthering, kind of kaleidoscope. It's not just one thing. There's so many lights and so many things of samsara. So Savilasa means samsara basically. So along with that, Savilasa, everything just goes. This is the thing. Okay. Alright, so now let us start to dissect it. I hope I can even finish it. Maybe we'll have to do that next week. It's 8:44. I plan to go up to maybe 9:30, 9:40 at this, so that it's not too late for some of you. So here goes. So first thing is the name Shankarananda. So here Swami Maheshananji says that you can take it in two ways. One is his real guru, Sri Shankarananda, and the other one is the symbolic guru, Ishvara, which is Shankara. This way, either one you can take. Now, let us take the first one first, which is his real life's guru, Sri Shankarananda. Sri Shankarananda, his place in the unfoldment of Vedanta is very well recognized and very honored by all the Vedantic scholars of the world. So he was his guru, Swami Vidyaranya's guru. And he has written, not only written very profusely, but extremely well-researched work on Vedanta. So, two of his works I'll give you the books of. So one of them is what is called Atma Purana. So the Atma Purana was actually suggested to me by Swami Viditatmanandaji back in about 15, 16 years ago. And it came about by a discussion I was having with Swami Viditatmanandaji, which said that I would like to really have him recommend some books to me that are written in Hindi. So he says, oh yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. Why don't you, since you know Hindi, that's your Matrabhasha, your mother tongue, then I'll give you some recommendations. So he's the one who really got me started on this. Really, I'm very indebted to Swami Viditatmanandaji. And then, of course, the absolute discovery in my life was Swami Maheshananji's, his in Hindi commentary and so on. But in the very beginning, the first book that I read, not in its entirety, but quite a bit of it, was a 4-volume set by Swami Shankarananda called Atma Purana. So this is only one of the 4 volumes. Oh my gosh. It is. So in this first volume, he analyzes only 2 Upanishads. So one of them is Aitareya, and the second is Kaushitika. Beautiful Upanishads. I've read Kaushitika also quite a bit, and Aitareya I'm somewhat more familiar with because I've read this several times. But just to give you an idea, on Aitareya, Swami Shankarananda has written 800 verses extolling the wisdom and beauty of Aitareya Upanishad. I was just counting that, 886 actually. And Kaushitika also, I think he must have, how many does he have? I don't know. 300 something. And there are 4 such volumes. So what he has done, Swami Shankarananda, is to look at all of the major Upanishads, even beyond what Swami Adi Shankara had done, because Adi Shankara had never done Kaushitika, and I think he has done Aitareya. And he wrote a marvelous commentary on that. I remember a discussion, I was there with Swami Viditatmanandaji and Swami Tattvavedanandaji. And Swami Viditatmananda was saying that he was greatly helped by this Atma Purana. And Swami Tattvavedananda has a resolve that he would also read it. I think he was familiar with it, but he hadn't read it yet. And I read quite a few portions of that back 15, 16 years ago. I remember there's a portion here which I might actually take up, which gives 11 different meanings of the word Narayana. That was so enjoyable. 11 and very insightful. So how the word Narayana comes up. Narasayanam, Narayanam. Naraha eva Naraha. All kinds of things and so on. This is just one small portion of it. Anyways, Sri Shankarananda is a scholar, very well recognized scholar, and he has written 3 works with all the Prasthanatraya. So one of them is Atma Purana, through which he has covered all of the Upanishads. This is number 1. The second one, which I have not read, is his Vrittis on Brahma Sutras. Vritti on Brahma Sutra. So the word vritti means a short form. Vritti means not a very long dissertation, but a relatively short one. Those of you may remember, we took a book called Vakya Vritti, where the Mahavakya Tattvamasi was dissected in 54 verses. We took this about several years back. Vakya Vritti. So the word Vritti means a brief exposition on Brahma Sutra. So he's done that also. But the one that I think is most impressive was the one that he has done on Bhagavad Gita. Swami Shankarananda I'm talking about. So he wrote a book, exposition on the Bhagavad Gita. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I recall this very well. Swami Dayanand Ji, when he was teaching us Bhagavad Gita, he said personally he likes Swami Shankarananda's commentary the best. I remember that so well. And so back in 82 or so, we used to have Swami Siddhabodhananda, who was one of our Mahadevan was his Purva Ashrama name, and he was very good in getting all the books from India at that time. And so we all lined up and said, yeah, I want this one. So I have this. This is called the Srimad Bhagavad Gita Vyakhya Sa Anuvada Shankarananda Vyakhya Sahita. And this is also has a Hindi translation to it. And I have not read word for all of the ones, but I do refer to it from time to time. Beautiful book. Anyway, so this is Swami Shankarananda. So the first meaning of Vidyaranya's Namaskara is to his own Guru. Okay, so this is number 1. Then comes the other way, which is Ishvara, the name Shankara. And so the word Shankara, as you know very well by now, means the one who showers his blessings. Sham karoti iti Shamkara. Sham means the peacefulness, happiness. The one who creates happiness, peacefulness in you is Shankara. Shankara. This is one of the names of Ishvara, of Shiva. So Shankara. And so Shankara Ananda. And so the one who and Shri Shankara Ananda. So the word Shri here is important because the word Shri means who has the wealth of giving you Ananda, who has the capability of giving you Ananda. So it is not that you just get a mail order or something like this. You make sure that if you follow the complete teaching, Ishvara does, that he has the ability to convert your dukkha, your problems of life, and just make them go away. So he has the capability. So it is Shri. So Shri means the one who has because he has the entire Maya Shakti under in his control, therefore the Maya Shakti can all be eliminated by the Brahma Vidya. And so it has the capability of giving you Ananda, and this is why the word Shri comes in. Shri Shankarananda. And how does it do it? How does Parameshwara give you Ananda? So here Swami Maheshananji quoted a shloka from Agama Shastra. So the Agama Shastra is the one that analyzes the Vedic words, and it's a separate way of explaining and so on. And we don't really follow it completely, but we take out some nectars of truth from it and include that in Vedanta. So I am not quite sure exactly where the differences and so on are, but they're very similar, Agama Shastra and Vedanta Shastra. So this is from Agama Shastra. It says, Paripakvamalaye Tanut sadhana hetu shakti patena yojayati pare tattve sadikshaya acharya murtistha. It's a mouthful. It's a huge explanation by Swami Maheshananji. Anyway, I'll give you some aspects of that so you can get a feeling of how Ishvara is capable of giving Ananda. Somehow he gives the Ananda to his disciples. So here it says Paripakva Mala. Paripakva Mala means impurities. Right? Impurity is called Mala. And impurities are in the form of Papa and Punya. Both have to be taken up. Punya also is impurity. Papa, of course, is impurity. Both of them are the lack of Antakarana Shuddhi. This is called Papa Karma. And then you can even use the word Papa and Punya Karma. Why are they impurities? Because of two reasons. Okay, so let me see if I want to read it. I want to do that at this point. Yeah, I think we'll do it at this point. Okay, so two reasons why so let's just use the word Papa now. Punya is also the counterpart of that. And the reason Punya is also, because one can ask, how come Punya, which is non-sinful actions, good actions, how can they be impurities? The reason they are impurities because they create in you desire for more fun experiences. So this should be understood very well. So the way our life unfolds is that if you do something and you have some results from the actions that you expected, there are three possibilities. One is that the result is exactly what you expected. That doesn't happen very often. Usually it's either more than what you expected or less than what you expected. If it is less than what you expected, you are disappointed. And if you are wise, you will give it up. But most of us are not wise. So what we do is we say, well, I did not put enough effort into it. So I think I should do this one more time. And this time I think I'll succeed. So this also is a hook. It's called Pasha. That also hooks you in towards greater karma in the future. Punya also, when the expectations are better than what you got, you say, my God, this is wonderful. I must do this again. because I am, Ishvara is with me, I am very lucky, that also keeps you engaged. And engaged means in the sense that the sense of happiness from experiences takes you away from inquiring the very nature of your own ananda. You are only looking at experiential ananda, not the real ananda. So in that sense, both papa and punya are ashuddha. They are impure. They create a problem. Okay? Now, he says, paripakvamala. This time already got some water. So paripakvamala means by ripening the results of papa. So the papa, let's just talk about not good actions. Papa means some action which was not done properly. Something was missing. And you can even say in an extreme case it's sinful actions, but let's not go that far. Even some actions that were they were shortcoming towards your expectations. That papa. So now papa has two facets to express itself in our lives. Okay, so this should be understood. This is really interesting. Papa expresses itself in our lives in two ways. One is sukha dukkha that we experience. Dukkha usually is. Sukha is from punya. Let's just say dukkha from the papa. All of a sudden you're going and you get a new medical problem that you never had before. Or come from left field. Never expected it. Then you've got a huge thing. Now you have to really find out the doctors, medicines, this, that, or the other. Or some mental issues that come up. Some fights with some loved ones. And all of a sudden some conflicts. So anything, any kind of a dukkha. Okay? So the first portion of papa, which is karma phala, is what is going to happen regardless of what you want to do. It's going to happen. So this is what is called Prarabdha Karma. So in your life, so this is, we have discussed this also, in the Prarabdha Karma, the Ishvara Sankalpa is very involved. So Ishvara, when he gave you the birth, together with you, you both decided this is what I want to do. And Ishvara now picks all of the previous karmas. These are infinite positive and negative karmas. But a certain set of karmas are picked out and given to you for this life. And this is signed off. It is signed off by Ishvara. Okay, that's it. Your life is now started. Here comes the entire chart of your whole life. How long you're going to live, how healthy or unhealthy you will be, what kind of problems you're going to have. And you cannot change this, by the way. You cannot change it. So the two portions of papa, the first portion you cannot change it. This is what is called Prarabdha Karma. Prarabdha Karma means they have already started to fructify and they are no longer karmas, they are now karma phalas, as Swami Maheswaranji pointed out so well. He says we keep talking about Prarabdha Karma, but this is Prarabdha Karma phala. It has already come out. The seeds have already fructified. Nothing you can do. Whether you are a Mahatma or not a Mahatma, you will, whatever life your lifespan is, whatever physical problems you're having, all those are predetermined. So this is the first part of Papa Karma. Now comes the second part, which is the really interesting one that we have to really dwell on. So what happens is, the second part generates samskara. You can even call it vasana. Vasana in a negative sense, and samskara generally in a positive sense, but really more or less the same meaning. Vasana and samskara. So it generates that. Okay? Now, what happens is, your sukha dukkha is already done. But in the wake of it, your tendency to follow the same papa karma remains. There was an incident that happened just a couple of days ago. I in fact read it just this morning, which illustrates this. And in fact, Swami Maheshananji also points this out in terms of a bunch of thieves that are involved in stealing things from homes and banks and so on. But let me just give you the recent thing that I saw. So, I believe yesterday or the day before, in Cupertino on Highway 280, northbound on near Wolf Road, there was a car that hit another car which ran into a tree, and a woman was killed and a man is in critical condition as of this morning, of this other car. And so when the police came, they found that this another car that hit the other car, there was nowhere to be found. But they kept combing the place, and they found there's a guy who they found out has had DUI 2 convictions in the past. He'd had 2 drunk driving convictions in the past, and he was the one who again was very drunk, and he killed these 2 people. Okay, so this is the scenario. Now, here's what happens. So, you can imagine this man, whose name I don't know how old he is or something. I don't think it gave any details. It doesn't matter. He was first arrested for a DUI. He must have been given some punishment. I don't know what it was, but he must have been given some punishment. And you can imagine his thinking. His thinking is, why did I do this? I shouldn't really be drinking, and I should not be driving while I'm drinking. This is not good. I'm not going to do that again. And he promised everybody, this is it. But do you know what? The samskara from his tendency to drink and to drive while he's drinking is still there. Because when supposing he's well, and he goes to these happy hours with half off on alcohol, he says, I'll be more careful this time. Well, I'm not really blaming him. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just having a nice drink. This is fine. I have not felt this so well. Let me just have another drink. I'm not going to. Again, the second time it happened, he was arrested again. So here's the thing. In his case, the dukkha that he created for himself and for others the first time was the first type, which is Prarabdha Karma. But the second one, which is based on samskaras from the previous one, had not yet been fulfilled. So he continued to create a problem for himself, and ultimately, now I hope that he's been put behind bars forever, having killed someone. And so this is the situation. Now let's go back to Swami Maheshananji's example, that you have a thief who actually, along with his other thieves, was caught and was roughed up by the police and put into jail. Now, because he was an adult and a thief, the tendency to steal is still there. But even now, when he comes out of it, he feels that perhaps that was then. I don't know how the police caught me. This time I can do it again. However, he finds that the other two people have also been stealing separately, and now they are really in trouble. So he says, you know what? It is time for me to give up. And I am now going to really change my ways. So the second component of papa is the control of your vasanas. This is what Swami Chinmayananji also used to really focus on so much. And I used to think about, why does he keep on talking about vasanas, vasanas, vasanas? But now I am beginning to think that I can understand. I mean, I didn't completely understand what he was talking about, but I think that the genesis of his explanation is now more clearer to me. That the tendencies of doing papa are controllable. The papa itself, the sukha dukkha, is not controllable. So the first part is not under your control, but the second part is. And the second part means the way it is done is that the samskaras for doing papas are neutralized by stronger samskaras that point out what you can be if you are a straight person, if you are a good person, if you have your shama damas, uparama, titiksha, etc., all the sadhana chatushtaya in line. Because I think what happens is that people do bad things because they are unhappy. They are unhappy with themselves, and they want to do something quickly to please themselves. Swami Vedananji also used to say that if you look at the literature of his talks and so on and so forth, he says, we are all looking for a pleased self. Pleased self. It's really funny. Not funny, it's really tragic that people that even kill other human beings also derive some kind of a satisfaction from them, from this crime. Otherwise they wouldn't do this. They feel some goodness to themselves. Oh, I'm a very important person, I can kill somebody else. Finished him off. So ultimately it is all really understanding the pleased self. And everyone has a different method of having a pleased self. Somebody likes, potatoes. Somebody likes meat. Somebody likes music to please themselves. Somebody likes to win money in the slot machine. But the ananda that everyone seeks for is the same, which is a pleased self. And so, the way Ishvara gives you kalyanam, now to close off the loop of it, is he asks you to forget about what is already happening to you, which has already been cast in stone. There's nothing else you can do. But the tendencies resulting from that, you can do. You can do. Maheshananji had given this very beautiful example. He said, I think I've given you this before also, that if some shishya brings some very pleasing thing to a guru, and that the guru has expressed some desire, this I really like. He gives the example of rasagullas from Calcutta, that somebody brings the rasagullas from Calcutta. It is wonderful that this is your prarabdha. You like rasagullas and your shishya brought all the way from Bengal, and he kept it very cool and so on so it doesn't spoil, and he gave it to him, to his guru. Enjoy it. But if the guru says, I really like these rasagullas, when are you coming back again? Make sure you come back again. This is the second part of Punya Papa, not the first part. First part is enjoy, Prarabdha Karma. The second part is do not desire for anything, let things happen on themselves, and you now turn attention to removing the tendencies from you. When you remove the tendencies, how does it happen? The seeds of further action have been roasted, so to speak. They cannot fructify anymore. Otherwise, what happens is one karma generates karma phala. That karma phala generates more karma. It generates more karma phala. It go on and on and on. There is no end to it. This is what is called bhoktritvam and kartritvam. No end to it. So we will look into that in a little bit. So to close this off, Sri Shankarananda provides the kalyanam by your changing your previous samskaras to new samskaras that are much more beneficial to you. This is how it is done. Okay? Now, another thing, the word namaha. So the word namaha is used. So the namaha needs to be understood. What is namaha? Namaha means I bow down to it. So there is a book which is called Panchakshari Vidya. And I think I may have talked about it in one of the classes, and I think I might take it up again in this new format of Vedantic Insights. Beautiful book. It's a very short book. So it's called Panchakshari Vidya. So Panchakshari is, of course, Namah Shivaya is called Panchakshari. So there are 5 akshara, 5 consonant and vowel combinations is called akshara. So namaha. So na, ma are 2. Visarga is not counted as akshara. So namaha. Shi, va, ya are 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5. And these are called Panchakshari. So Om is not part of that. Om is separate from Namah Shivaya. This is called Panchakshari. So there is a scholar that has unfolded the meaning of Namah Shivaya. And there are, I forget, either 17 or 19. It's an odd number. Just like in the case of Narayana, here also there are 17 or 19 different ways of breaking down the meaning of Namah Shivaya. We will do that perhaps one of these days. Anyway, the most important, the very first summary of Namah Shivaya is what is called Tyago hi namaso vachya. I remember that from that book, and Swami Maheswaranji also refers to it. He says the meaning of the word namaha. So so he said, in fact, if you look at in Rudram, the word namaha comes, I forget the number. It just comes. Namo Hiranyabahave Senanye Dishan Chapataye Namo Namo Vrikshebhyo Harikeshebhyo Pashunam Pataye Namo Namo Bablushaya Vivyaktinanana Namaha Namo Namaha 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 Namaha. So this Namaha, what does it mean? It means Tyago hi namaso vachya. It means the meaning of the word Namaha is Tyaga, is giving up. Something is giving up, something is given up. That commitment, that sankalpa to give something up is the real meaning of Namaha. And so the Namaha Shivaya means that I give up something for the sake of Shiva. I give my Tyaga to Shiva. This is the meaning of Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya is the fourth case. So, for the sake of, for the offering to Shiva. And what is the offering? My Tyaga. So then the question becomes, Tyaga of what? What do you give up? Yeah, I remember Swami Dayananda used to, he says, sometimes when we give all these arati, so we do this arati. So we say, Sab kuch hai tera, kya lage mera. Though I give you my entire body and my mind, everything, I just give it to you. It is not mine, it is all yours. So I just give it to you, this is my Tyaga. So Ishvara, when the first time you did this, somebody invited you for having this ceremony, and at the end of that everybody sang Om, all this, and then you say Sab kuch hai tera, kya lage mera. So Ishvara said, this is a wonderful guy. He or she has now given up his body and given up his mind to me, and so they say that one of the accountants that Ishvara has called Chitragupta. So Chitragupta is the official accountant of Ishvara. So he turns to Chitragupta and he says, okay, write it down, that this person has given up his body and the mind to me. It no longer belongs to him, it now belongs to me. Chitragupta said, sir, okay, done it. He's been transferred over, debits and credits, and he's been debited to you and credited from his account. Wonderful. Then after a couple of days, there is the same arati. And again the same thing. Sab kuch hai tera, kya lage mera. So now Ishvara turns to Chitragupta and he says, wait a bit, I'm getting very old. Don't I recall that he gave up his body to me yesterday? Chitragupta says, yes sir, I have it written down right here. He gave up his body and his mind to you. So why is he giving it up again? It's not his anymore. Swamiji used to say, when we do Namaha, we only threaten. We don't really do it. If we really do it, we would become very blessed, but we don't. It's a make-believe. It is very much like children, they can give a sweet to someone else and they have a clenched fit and say, okay, I'm giving it to you. And as soon as the other person grabs it, he says, no, this is mine again. So it's something like that. So this is called Tyago Nam Hi Namaso Vachya. The question is, Tyaga of what? So the Tyaga here is, Swami Maheshananji points it out, He says ahankara tyaga. Ahankara tyaga. So what does that mean? Ahankara tyaga. Okay. So ahankara tyaga means ahankaratmika vrittihi pratipalitam chetanam is not my swarupa. So what it means is that the chetana vritti, which is in my transactional reality as a human being, okay, it is a reflected transactional vritti. Vritti means a thought form. The thought form that I have, any thoughts that I have, are not mine. They are not me. They are considered to be mine at this point, but that's not who I am. Then it is the chinmatraha. It is the, so in the analysis of the electricity and the appliance, so the functioning of the appliance is only a reflection of the electricity. Electricity never changes. That's not the you. And so at this point, the ahankara means that I am a limited being who is a karta and bhokta. This karta and bhokta is me. I am the doer, I am responsible, and I am the enjoyer, I am the sufferer. So this is what happens. This is the what is called the ahankaratmika vritti. And this I have to slowly give up, because I cannot really begin to see the truth of myself as an unchanging chinmatra satyam jnanam anantam until I give up the false notion that I am just an embodied person. You see, this is the thing. I am very convinced at this point. I am unwilling to give up. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what will be left of me. The embodied person that I am is all I have. I can't give it up. And so through the teaching of Ishvara, it says, Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, the problem we have of holding on to the limitations in our life, whatever they are. That's just me. I'm just, I am not super rich. I'm not super intelligent. But this is the way I am. It's okay. I'm accepting myself. So this feeling that I am just this much, not more, is harmful, because if you could give up that feeling of limitation, you'll become unlimited. If you can give up the feeling that I am just a room space, you will begin to see the total space. But you can't until you have a tyaga of the ahankara vritti. And do it even conditional. And you cannot do it suddenly. So what happens is, and this is really the experiences of all of us that have been studying for a while, that, you people say this, often sometimes they say, that person has a big ego. You're very egotistical. Oh my gosh. Very big ego. And very thankfully, we are lucky that we don't have such a big ego. If you have such a big ego, you have to come down to a normal ego. Because if until you do that, you are like a balloon which is overinflated, and one day it will be punctured. I remember back about 20 years ago, or now it's more than that, I should say, 21, 22 years ago when I retired. I was reading, even prior to that, several years prior to that, when I was in my mid-50s and so on, and the thought of retiring was starting to grow in me. I read several articles about it, and there was one article there's several very interesting articles about retirement that I really got a lot out of it, but one of them said that if you are a big boss at the time of your retirement, you will have a hard time retiring. So they were all talking about how pleasant is the retirement. Do you have regrets of retirement? Will you be happy or not happy? And in the function of discussing that, they were saying that if you are a big boss, then to suddenly give up your position where you would go every day and says, yes, you do this, you do that, I'm the big boss, I'm the one that everybody has to listen to. As soon as you retire, there is no one to boss. Certainly not your spouse. And so you are really in a bad shape. But if you are not a big boss, you are an individual contributor, you have a better chance of having good retirement. So in terms of ahankara, if someone has a big ego, then you have a hard time really making that big balloon come down to normal. But what happens is that even the normal ahankara is enough to keep me limited. Normal ahankara. You feel that, I don't know, I'm not a very egotistical person. I don't have a big ego. Alright, you don't have a big ego, so what do you think? I'm just a small person. You are not. I'm not. Because you feel that just leave me alone, I'm just a small person, I'm not going to bother anybody, it's okay. You're not going to bother anybody, you're bothering yourself. Because by clinging to this smallness, you are giving up the opportunity to be very big. So therefore, the namaha, I'm still on the word namaha at this point, means namaso hi tyago hi namaso vachya. That if you try, so this is exactly what happens, is that if you try to reduce the kartritvam and bhoktritvam a little bit, you will see that Ishvara will appear more clearly to you. How can I reduce my kartritvam and bhoktritvam? Because I feel I'm responsible. I'm the one that has to get up in the morning. I have to eat. I have to take care of myself. No one else is there. And so on. So what I don't understand, what can I reduce? How can I reduce my own ahankara and so on? So there they say that you begin to see the presence of Ishvara in running your life. And we have talked about this before. I'm not shy of repeating it again and again, that really the biggest issue we have is We are spiritual children that do not understand the massive presence of Ishvara in our life. Massive. This is just incredible. So as I was giving the example, I think in some of the other classes recently, that if you're just a child and if you are just enjoying good food and so on, you don't have an appreciation of how the good food comes, who takes care of it, what is your mom and dad and others and grandmas and grandpas and so on. You have no idea. You're just enjoying life and so on. So you are just a baby. You're not expected to be very wise. But suppose you are 27 years old, then you still have the same feeling. You have no idea, you don't know about what your mom does for you. We have a problem on our hands. You've never spiritually grown. You've never grown. This is exactly what our situation is. We just go through life and saying, okay, this is COVID and now this is taken care of. There is a doctor. And what about the presence of Ishvara who is running your own body? Oh, really? And you start to look into it and you say, oh my God, I never thought of it. And so you find that as your ahankara recedes in the background a little bit, we're not asking that you completely give it up. That is, you'll become an instant Mahatma. And that's not only unlikely, it is not possible at this point in time. But be a little bit of a Mahatma. At least entertain the possibility that you are not the only one responsible for it. There is another person sitting behind you who is running the show. And so this handover from ahankara to Ishvara has to come slowly. But if you just go in that direction, what you find is that the more you do this tyaga, the more satisfaction, more kalyanam, more shankara ananda will come. This is exactly what the meaning of the word namaha is. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Well, it's 9:40 almost, 9:37. And there is a little bit more, particularly some very lovely explanation by Swami Maheshananji on Pada Ambu Janmane. What is the meaning of the word lotus feet? What does lotus feet have to do with it? Why lotus feet? That we often hear about. And so we will do that and a few other things, and then hopefully we will now get back into our main topic that we started last week, which is Praptasya Praptihi, and the 3 stages of it that we saw, if you recall from it. So we will pick up the thread on that with the help of Kena Upanishad, most likely next week. If not, then the following class. So with that, we close off this somewhat of an abbreviated session for 1 hour, but I think we got something done. And we will see you next week. Om. Asato ma satkamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Well, I'm not sure how many of you are still there, so it'll be interesting to see that. So we are at mercy of technology here. Something or the other. We think that we solved the Wi-Fi problems with the help of Raj, who was here with me last weekend. This couple of days ago, we went over. There's still some more changes we are doing. But in the meantime, the YouTube problem came up. That's okay. We'll deal with it. Yeah, only 22 people watching. Normally it will be twice that number. Banjaras, Darshana, Chandradulam, Rajvelpuri, Chandan, Shanti Kumar, Gauranga Krishnamurti, Surendra Bhargava, Sam Dillon, Shankar Narsiman, Ashish Mutkal, Ila Joshi, Subroto, Zarina, Panna Bhuva, Keshav Chopra, Lichi Chu, Balamani, Suresh Belani, Vandana Agarwal. Okay. So Balamani says, enjoyed the narration of Ahankara. If possible, give examples. So I think I can only elaborate and repeat what I said earlier. So both the inflated ego and the non-inflated ego is harmful. The inflated ego, where a person thinks highly of himself or herself, this is actually dealt very well in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in the Amanithwam section. The 20 qualities that were given out by Swami Dayanandji, very well written in this book called Value of Values. Beautiful book. And what it just does is to elaborate upon these 20 things that I must work on in my life. And one of them, two of them related to your question, is what is called Amanithwam Adambhitwam. So Amanithwam means one who works on not being a mani. And the Adambhitwam, I'll come back to that in a minute. Adambhitwam means who is not a dambhi. One is not a mani and the other one is not a dambhi. What are the differences? Mani exaggerates. And dambhi out and out lies. So dambhi is very easy to see when if you write down, I got a PhD from Harvard, and in your job application, and supposing this company never checks on it, and he says, oh, if he says it, it must be, you never even solved you don't even know where the school is. He's called a Dambhi. Never even went to Harvard or anything. A Mani is one who has some truth in it, but his sense of wisdom is exaggerated. And he thinks I'm a very, very wise person, when in fact your wisdom is very suspect. This would be a Mani. So that is the inflated ahankara. But even the non-inflated ahankara, as I mentioned before, is, I wouldn't say equally, but just as damaging. In the case of exaggerated Mani, you first have to come down to the normal Mani. Then from the normal Mani, now you have to get a lot of Upadesha. Because I'm not ready to give up my sense of smallness, unless I can be convinced totally that because the smallness is all I have. There was an interesting, there's several tales about this. So there was a sadhu who was a very simple person living in a village and had very little requirement, very few requirements, and he never really was attached to a lot of things and so on. But he used to have a buffalo that he owned, and he took care of the buffalo very well, because the buffalo would give milk, and so the sadhu was taking care of the buffalo and so on. And so he was always praying to Ishvara that please, make me a Jivan Mukta. And he was not being made into a Jivan Mukta. I mean, he could not grow into a Jivan Mukta. And he used to wonder, one day he in his prayers, he asked Ishvara, hey, what's happening to me? How come you're not? Ishvara says, what about that buffalo? You think you are a very simple person, but are you not attached? You are worrying about the buffalo day and night, what happens to him and so on. So he realized, my God, that is right. I thought that it was a selfless part on my mind that I am taking care of the buffalo, but I am really I am imprisoned by the thought of the buffalo itself as being mine. So this means that at this point I feel that this body is mine. Whatever it is, I'm growing old and so on, but this is me. You can say it is mine, but you cannot say it is me. But the me and mine really keep me imprisoned. And so you can just say, Ishvara, that whatever the Prarabdha is, I'll just abide by it. But let me just grow out of this. Let me enjoy the ever-presence of my consciousness, which is everywhere and let me enjoy that. Let me understand it. I don't grasp it yet. And the reason I don't grasp it is because I'm hung up on being this body-mind complex. So this is the real prayer to Ishvara, that may you really relieve me of my smallness. So in that sense, both the big guy who has a lot of ahankara problems and a small guy who has a little bit of it, both have a problem. But the first one is you have to get rid of the big one, and then you are hung up on the smallness. Then you have to get rid of that as well. I don't know, something like that. Okay. We will see you hopefully next week. Om.